Hey guys, welcome back to BGA. Today I just want to recount the tale of Ark Survival Ascended. Oh my god, this game. As a longtime fan of Ark Survival Evolved, and somebody who has put over 1,000 hours into it, I think that Ascended is probably one of the worst video games ever made, frankly. The entire experience has been a life lesson in why not to trust con men and how gross companies can really be. So let's start at the beginning with a brief recount of Ark Survival Evolved. It was a survival game that released into early access in, I believe, about 2015 or 2014, and released on Xbox at about the same time, and PS4 in 2016 with the launch of the first expansion, Scorched Earth. That was when I joined, basically the day it came out on the PS4, with Scorched Earth included, with the island, and with the center maps. So, back then, Ark was about as stable and buggy as it is now, which is to say, not. Evolved, however, actually is a slightly better running game, ironically, especially on consoles where you can't have a PC that brute forces its way through the coding. And Ark was basically a dinosaur survival game where you could tame and ride dinosaurs, and as more expansions came out, Wildcard, the developers, decided to just start plagiarizing every other sci-fi series they could think of, including Alien, including Pacific Rim, including Halo even in the later expansions, and also The Matrix. So, frankly, the dinosaur survival game that we all loved was kind of gone. The expansions weren't helping it stay that, but we did have a saving grace, that being the free expansion maps that were more like the island, more like that original vision of the game that the developers had seemingly abandoned. And maps like Ragnarok, maps like Valguero, even the Crystal Isles to a certain extent, and Fjordur and stuff, they helped really keep the game alive. Now, I've seen a lot of propaganda online recently saying, like, Aberration and Extinction are some of the best maps ever, and that is just factually incorrect. Aberration and Extinction are, like, garbage, like pure garbage, like utter garbage, and they're not fun to play on, they're not well designed, they have nothing interesting to them, unlike the fan-created maps, which of course actually do have interesting things and perfect kind of the design philosophy that the island tried to do, but sort of only got halfway there because, frankly, the developers didn't playtest the map too much, and they didn't realize that it was really, really frustrating to play on still. So anyway, that brings us to about the 9th generation of consoles and the advent of Unreal Engine 5, the next generation engine that's going to change everything. And Wildcard says they're going to make a new version of the game in Unreal Engine 5 that's going to bring Ark into the next generation. And this is alongside, of course, the launch of Ark 2, which, by my calculations, was supposed to come out like 3 years ago. Wonder why we still haven't gotten another trailer. So anyway, the game gets mysteriously delayed. It's not talked about. There's radio silence. Things seem a bit suspicious until finally the first trailer comes out, and no, it doesn't actually look too bad. I mean, it's definitely Unreal Engine 5, and it's definitely still Ark, and things do look quite a bit different. They've really given the island an overhaul. But as the game got closer to release, things started coming out about it. We started learning just how short of a development the game had. And the more we heard about what the game was going to include, including mods on consoles, including paid mods on consoles, there were fears that Wildcard's innate greed and the greed of their parent company, Snail Games, was going to infiltrate this new experience and ruin it. And, that was like the least of our worries at the start. It would become a worry more later. So when the game launched, well, it was actually kind of okay. On Xbox Series X, which is where I bought the game initially, on launch, it certainly had issues. There is a weird film grain effect over the whole game that still hasn't been removed and you can't remove. The clouds are oppressive, the fog is annoying, and practically all of the volumetric lighting and just atmospheric effects they added are kind of garbage, honestly, but, that didn't really matter all too much. The game was still Ark, and the dinosaurs did look better, and the game as a whole did look better. But of course, Wildcard can't ever make anything good and stick to it, so it was only about a week, probably less than a week, that some of these visual enhancements started randomly disappearing. The splashes when you got into water just randomly disappeared. The water texture entirely reverted almost back to its evolved counterpart, looking horribly out of place for a while until it sort of came back, I guess. The shorelines and the washing of the water also got completely displaced, and so it looked like there was just a white line surrounding the entire map. And worst of all, the textures started to degrade in real time as we were playing. This was honestly the worst and most noticeable thing that happened. I really don't know how to describe just the process of watching this game fall apart update after update, as the modding community, which was the only thing actually interesting or good about this game, started to fall apart because Wildcard kept updating the game in absurdly stupid ways that made it impossible to mod, that made the mods break all the time, which made the community angry at the modders and harass the modders. So they just left. Everybody who was making good free mods when the game launched left not more than 6 or so months after the game came out. There was nothing left for them but basically misery, because people just kept bullying them constantly over the fact that the developers of the game were incompetent. So then that brings us to the current day mod situation, where basically everything on the store is paid and made with generative AI, which means it's total garbage and not worth your time, and everything on there is like $5 to $10. It's garbage. But of course, even if the mods aren't good, maybe the base game will stay good. Maybe the visual glitches will get fixed eventually. No, everything will continue to get worse. Enter Scorched Earth. When Scorched Earth came out, I was hoping it would be a breath of fresh air, You built a whole map from the ground up again. Okay, maybe this time Wildcard got it right. So of course, I log into the game, I fly around Scorched Earth, and I find holes all over the map. Not just mesh you can clip into like in Evolved or on the island on Ascended. No, these were genuine holes you could straight up walk into and clip under the map without any exploits. That's how unfinished this was. It was appalling, and frankly, it was the last straw for me in terms of ever really seriously considering playing Ascended again. It was, frankly, just completely insulting, and, what are you supposed to do when the game does that? I mean, hell, we weren't even playing the game very much anymore at this point. We had a server running because it was a lot of money, but, why would you want to play a game like this? So of course, I kept the game installed, and I look at it when Aberration comes out, and when it went on PS Plus, I took a look at Extinction, and let me tell you, Aberration somehow looks even worse than it did in the original game. And, Aberration didn't look bad in the original game, but it certainly does now. because with the addition of the center to the game, Wildcard started doing something funny, which was basically not paying attention to the biomes they were making and copy-pasting the same asset everywhere. The center is basically made of the same beach tan rock the whole way through, meaning the redwood basically looks like you're still on the beach. A snowy mountain looks like you're still on the beach. Everywhere looks like you're just on a beach. It's stupid, and it shouldn't have been done that way. But, you know, what are you gonna do? This is the world we live in, with this being the only dinosaur survival game. And the center was really where the texture degradation happened too. In that one, at first, I don't think it even had textures on most of the rocks. It was just like looking at primary colors jagged across the whole map. It was appalling. Not to mention the pop-in, the lag, the jitters, the normal arc problems made even worse by every single update. And do you know why all of this was? Of course, it's because they didn't actually code this game. They took an Unreal Engine 4 game and plopped it into Unreal Engine 5, tried to patch it up as best they could, turned on all of the RTX settings, and then released it to the public. It was basically, they didn't develop the game. But that's not even the half of it, because of course, with Wildcard, you've got to expect to pay a lot of money, and so of course, you're going to pay for DLC, because they made every map DLC in the original game free. Now, we've got to pay for Bob's Tall Tales, which is essentially going to add new features to the game over time, and with every part of Bob's Tall Tales out, I have got to say, this is one of the most underwhelming and overpriced things ever. This was more expensive, by the way, than the Ark Season Pass, which included Scorched Earth, Aberration, and Extinction and Evolved. That was $20, $30 for Bob's Tall Tales, which essentially adds like 3 dinosaurs, maybe a couple more, and essentially some worthless trinkets to play around with in your game. So, yeah. Not exactly a great thing to be doing for your game. And basically that takes us to the present, where you just see Wildcard and Snail Games putting out a trailer for a new map. Even a new map for Evolved that is AI generated, and so we will not be playing that. Frankly, the lack of care and the just pure apathy that Wildcard and Snail Games have for their community, the absolute money-grubbing tendencies that they have, is just stupid. And I really, really pity anyone who is naive enough to still believe Wildcard is a good company and naive enough to think this game will get better, because frankly there is no evidence it ever could. But that's all I've got to say on this topic, so see you next time.